It's been a wonderful, wonderful event so far. And again, I have the wonderful pleasure to welcome you to the fabulous and effervescent, if I may say so, Kevin Ong, who is going to take you through his presentation. He's from Dentsu Creative, I should add, born in Japan, raised in a connected world. He's the head of studio at Dentsu Creative Singapore. Over to you, Kevin.
All right. Thank you so much, Amanda, for the introduction, and a very warm welcome to all to Dentsu Creative. I'm Kevin Ong, the head of studio, and I'm very excited, to be here to have the opportunity to speak on championing sustainable team management today with all of you. Let's start with a little bit about me. I am the head of studio for Dentsu Creative Singapore. I've been with Dentsu for the past 12 years, and I've been in the creative field, brainstorming and executing for more than 20 years prior to doing what I do. And this really gives me the background, in the realm of creative operations within the creative agency space in APAC. And it is precisely, with this multiple layer of touch points throughout my career, which had inoculated my firm belief in, recognizing unique talents via consistent conversation and interactions. To that end, I'm also a leading proponent of identifying the strengths and capabilities of the creative talent in order to create empowered team leads, which without a doubt is also a key to setting up any business for success. I want to give a quick introduction on Dentsu Creative. We are born in Japan, the only major holding company to be so, with that incredible heritage of craft, innovation, and technology. We are raised in a connected world. We are over 100 years old in Japan, but just 7 years old in the rest of the world. We are digital natives. We are raised in the heart of an organization with deep roots in modern media, data, and technology. Our DNA is a blend of our Japanese heritage, bringing together craft, innovation, and technology, and our deep understanding of modern media and contemporary culture. And next, I want to give, just a little bit of some context about the kind of work and the challenges Dentsu Creative faces. The modern communication landscape is full of complexity and contradictions. Some say it is about brand, others says it's all about performance. Some double down on data, while others says creativity is the ultimate multiplier. Some say build your brand in the physical space, and others in the virtual world. Some say it's all about long-term strategy, others short-term growth. Some chases growth, while others pursue good. It's a complexity that agencies, add to their own structures and silos. I might really add on to that. We've surveyed 500 CMOs around the world. 72% agree that the traditional silo way of working is no longer fit for purpose. While 85% agree that while consumer behavior have changed, agencies have not kept pace. We believe that we're young enough and skilled enough. We have the right heritage and all the capabilities to reinvent the way we build brands and businesses for the modern world, to give our clients the simplicity they want, while still bringing them everything they need to connect with a new generation of consumers and unlock a new sources of revenue. With that, I would like to talk about how we are set up to deliver this modern creativity. We are a connected community of 9,000 experts in 46 markets and 71 cities. Those 9,000 are connected to 34,000 more through the power of horizontal creativity. Our top creative talents engages both globally and locally, making them available making their time available across our most exciting creative challenges. Our creative leads are deployed not only across our creative agencies, but spend 30% of their time engaged across our media and CXM businesses. This powerful combination of media, CXM, and modern creativity creates transformational results for our clients. Every single person in our business is accountable for the quality of the work. Everyone in our business, and this includes our producers, our strategists, our business leads, our creatives, and our technologists. They are tasked with making, the work we launch into the world for our clients as powerful, modern, and impactful as it can possibly be. Everything we do is powered by the unparalleled data and technology spine of Dentsu. Our modern creative product is accelerated by specialist vertical expertise in 3 key areas: digital experience, entertainment, and earned attention. And this will nicely segue, to what you attendees are here for. It's just really to champion sustainable team management. And it's a question we ask ourselves, how do we, and if you had to create a more effective network focusing on talent development in 2023, what would it look like? First, we start with a vision for creativity and fostering team collaboration at Dentsu. For us, creative collaboration is not a standalone vertical, but rather a horizontal that spans across 3 key pillars. We apply creativity across every corner of our client businesses, from media to CXM, commerce, and data. So how do we do that? Let's start with the pillar number 1, how we communicate. And this means, you've got to really, put in the effort. And I say this, there's absolutely no shortcut. You have to actually do the work. Now, let's break down what communication, means for you. First, we need to understand our team's strengths and weaknesses. To achieve this level of comprehension, for department heads, you should schedule regular check-ins with every single team members and talent in your team. For managers of managers, like myself, for example, it's also crucial to schedule check-ins to understand what is working, identify, gaps, pain points, that your manager feel is affecting, is really affecting team morale. Next, establish regular 2-way communication. It is crucial to address performance requirements and standards via team setup, accounts assigned, as well as linking performance in feeding back to your team members. Now, how do we achieve that? So, based on retention trend from Dentsu HR's data, it is crucial to inculcate feedback. And therefore positive reinforcement like praises, areas to improve, attitude, blind spots, and perception are key areas to highlight. Again, this might seem, obvious, but we know for a fact that it's often overlooked. Now, you may ask, what exactly does getting into the zone means, right? For creative, getting into the zone will differ from person to person, really. It is crucial to understand your team's response to deliverables, engage when's the best time to brief in a project, and as such, I like to touch on what time boxing entails, and I would suggest that if you have not tried time boxing, that's something that you should be trying because we've seen efficiencies in that. Now, time boxing is a great way to really create a tangible timeline, to allow for talents in our team to set time limits to specific tasks and move on to the next. So time boxing also allows for team members to acknowledge that once they've passed a certain time frame, set for themselves, it is prudent to move on to the next. So reset and reprioritize. By implementing time boxing, we have seen increased efficiencies within the Dentsu Creative team. Again, the upside to time boxing will also mean that creatives will not spend on an excessive amount of time on a singular task. So given that we only have a certain numbers of work hours each day, right? So, and it is crucial for us to kind of really look at how our team is able to be performing at their optimal best. So as a result, ever since we have implemented time boxing, we have seen a lot of efficiencies, across our network. And I would strongly suggest that, with ample discipline, with team leads advocating this concept, we have certainly seen an uptake, again, not just within Dentsu Singapore, but also across Dentsu APAC as well. Next, I also want to talk about team empowerment. It is incredibly crucial to empower each team members to act on areas that they excel at, but at the same time, also equally important to focus on areas, requiring improvement. This allows for an acute level of equilibrium that creative team not only appreciates, but also values. Now, this concludes pillar 1 with core focus on communication, and second, to really reinforce time management practices as well as methodology like time boxing to ensure that the main and sub pillars work well across your team to really enable and empower your team members on the road of creative productivity. Now, next, let's move on to pillar 2, planning. So, what does planning mean, right? And what does it entail? I think within Dentsu Creative, one of the key areas is really to identify a resource utilization platform and to provide a central source of truth for everyone. Now, what does the central source of truth for everyone looks like? Let me explain. You should preferably choose a resource planning tool that allows accounts and project leads to review utilization rate amongst resource sitting in respective departments. So anything else requires further activation of external resources can then be mapped against requirements and planned thereafter. With Dentsu Creative hybrid work arrangement, beyond harnessing the importance of Dentsu culture back into our team setup, post-COVID, I might add, we have also seen efficiencies and use cases within Dentsu and acknowledge that it is crucial to establish a central platform, with strict and specific SOPs. This really allows for accounts, project leads to communicate with creative on a timely manner. However, there is a trick to achieving a sweet spot in which hybrid work arrangement would work more effectively for you, if it is not already, right? And also amongst yourselves, your manager and your team leads. That is, and we do absolutely need to start thinking of aligning the concept of perception. How do we achieve an aligned perception, you may ask? Here's a sample exercise that you can gather everyone within each team and each department to participate in. And I call this the mountain of tomorrow. I guess, the premise is always to, I'm pretty sure we always ask, right? Do you ever wonder how much time, say, a designer or a writer would actually take to finish, for example, a social post, right? With the mountain of tomorrow, it is essentially based on the story points estimation logic. I mean, I have the caveat that I did not produce this concept. This is I would say is general knowledge, but and this exercise is generally used when you start a project between different individuals or new joiners, between departments, or if you have a team that you would want to accelerate, productivity, creative productivity moving forward, or obviously team members who haven't worked together often enough, right? It is really important to scope and align your project goals and roadmap together. Now, let me explain how this works. So, of course, you can get this sort of template, from places like FigJam or your Figmas, or your Miro board, for example. If you have those platforms, or you can just Google the Molten of Tomorrow, and you would be able to see similar, template like so. So the first thing to do is to really share this with every single team member. As I mentioned, using Miro board or FigJam, or even Freeform, if you are on the iOS platform, for example. And really estimate the effort and time that you think a designer or a writer would need to work on a various type of task, and sort the post-it under the points ranging from 0 to 200 points. So assign 0 for the easiest task based on your personal take, and assign 200 points for the most time-consuming task that you feel each designer or writer would take. The whole trick, the whole, I guess, hack to this exercise is you shouldn't think too much, or rather, based on whatever that you know already, and that's in your head, and just sort the post-it based on your assumption, right? So, and I'm just gonna give a bit of a caveat. I'm gonna spend a bit of time on this particular slide. So, I just want to say that it is crucial that you conduct a session to really review these aggregated findings. So, obviously, once your team has done the exercise, and this would span and this would really apply across every single person in your team. So they could be a design intern, a junior designer, up until a PM on AM who's working on the accounts that you are also on at the moment. So to note that whilst we are aware of, say, for example, a sparrow versus an elephant. For example, a sparrow is at 1 point because versus an elephant at 200 points, right? So in terms of sheer volume, weight, and size, whilst we are aware of the size differences and with the points aggregation we have gathered, in this case, measuring a very simple work at 1 point versus a very complex work at 200 points. And whilst we are not going into the agile story point, aggregation that we have gathered, in this case, measuring a very simple work at 1 versus 200 points, it's like I said, I just don't want to go into the very complex Scrum system matrix, right? Which I will not touch on, and that we are able to kind of really use this logic to help team members to understand the effort that it takes to complete a very simple task versus a very complicated project. And using these learnings, we can fold the findings, share with a team to align efforts, level that it takes, that it requires, for your team to complete the task at an aggregated level. The fringe benefits for such exercise is that we are able to help your team member to really understand the amount of effort that it takes, and also to really fold empathy back into our team construct. So with this shared findings across your network, you will be able to get a sense of actualization in terms of efforts required. But more importantly, really to use these aggregated results to demonstrate one person's perception versus that of a fixed, and or median time that a team member would need. The main takeaway is really for your team members to really use this exercise and get to a sweet spot. Sorry, just let me get this. Apologies, a bit of a issue with the screen. Yeah. Get to a sweet spot, as I mentioned, to get to a sweet spot of an amount of time that we need to complete certain piece of creative. And when you are seeing a certain creative in your team, say, they would need a bit more time, for example, or less time, and you'll be able to render assistance to them. It may be upscaling them, or to get to that particular point, or to get to a particular task closer to the speed that most team members would actually need. The other takeaway will be, of course, a monetary, very monetary fused one. In that, with this understanding of an estimated time that it will take to complete certain work, it takes a large amount of estimation, or I would say, or rather guesstimation, of the table, which in its optimal stage will actually allow for profit-related reconciliation in your business to be streamlined, and consequentially translating to profit margins that make sense not just for you, your business, but also that of your valuable team resource. Again, I do want to apologize for the slightly longer time span on this slide, but I do think that it is really important to, for me to share this across, because we have seen, success with this use case, and would therefore recommend this exercise to really, get a perception within your team. And as mentioned, the other key benefit is also using these key learning to potentially identify gaps along the way. I would say it is always prudent to really acknowledge these gaps and suggest improvements to bridge them before your resources get to the stage, of being burnt out. And I think that I think is really one of the crucial thing to note. Right. So thank you for your patience on that. I just want to kind of quickly summarize, right? With the molten of tomorrow, with that exercise, and of course the central planning system. While it's not an end-all to all problems, it would at least allow for creatives, as well as all of your project and accounts resources to have a clearer alignment internally to achieve an optimal creative output, or you would say a state of mind, without having to constantly contend with crazy and unrealistic timeline. And of course, I do understand that, with crazy and unrealistic timeline, it's something that we have to deal with fairly often, but I think it is something that, with such exercises, to align perception, but also to have a central source of truth. When I say central source of truth, in terms of platforms, I do mean, like if you're using Wrike, for example, or if you are using Monday.com, for example, to kind of really help manage your team's time that's being spent on a particular project. And I think that would really help in terms of making sure all the efficiencies within your team, within your business, actually set up for success. Now, this slide really just concludes pillar 2. Again, with just core focus on planning, and of course to, as I mentioned, to identify a central source of truth, right, which takes shapes in a resource management tool that works for your brand and your company setup. And third, as I mentioned, just to quickly summarize that, to realign perception across team members would also allow for clearer understanding and allow for empathy, that's, across team members to be properly inoculated, with understanding, appreciation, and respect to permeate across your organization. After all, at Dentsu, I can't stress this enough, we do believe that with empathy at its core, we are more likely to have a happy and therefore a more creative and productive team. And such mentality is not only, really infectious, but when it is genuine, we would also encourage with high, a lot more pleasantness across, high stress environment across any brands or organization. Right, let's move on to our final pillar, pillar number 3, identifying talents. Acknowledging and identifying talent is key, when working with your team. Beyond, identifying these talents in your team, it is also crucial to also seek out team blockers and also be truthful, right? And align with these talents to groom them to do 2 things, right? A, to lead the team, and B, to take on bigger roles. So, once the career trajectory is set, we can then leverage on what they set out against to plot daily work streams against more junior members as well. Now, and on the topic of talent, I do want to take this moment to squeeze in a few slides on one of Dentsu Creative case studies that is not only dear to our collaborative hearts within Dentsu, but also one that's also proving to be, really profitable, right? And we firmly believe that, these case studies that's being seen in here, which I will unveil in a minute, really allow us to walk the talk when it comes to amalgamating the human and the VI divide. So without further delay, let me explain what Dentsu VI is. As you can see on this page, in no particular order, you see Rumi, Rani, and Ray. And these are our VIs. So VIs. So VI stands for virtual identities, and that are 100% Dentsu born. And I want to bring to mind that in the modern world, your talents are likely to not only be human, but also virtual too, right? So at the heart of innovation in Dentsu, it also lies the human and talents that's behind all these 3 virtual identities. Because I can't stress it enough. Without the talents behind this innovation, it wouldn't be possible to effectively drive success. The experience vertical draws on our wealth of experience in creating innovative digital products and platforms at the intersection of commerce, culture, and gaming. And of course, most importantly, creativity. Propelling brand and businesses into a virtual future. This is an area where we have excelled for many years, consistently been recognized by Forrester and Gartner for our innovation capabilities and our completeness of our digital proposition. On this slide, you can see Rumi and Ray in action, one of our first virtual humans from our Dentsu VI offerings. With Ray specifically, we are helping brands connect with a new generation of consumers. We are also pleased to share that Ray is one of the first virtual human to grace the cover of her World magazine in Singapore. And our Dentsu VI is now bringing not just, it's not just bridging, the virtual world, but also on a magazine that you can peruse and hold in your hand, at the premise of your own home. And I do want to add that, this is precisely, with the talent that we have within Dentsu that would drive VI successes like Ray. And that concludes the mini showcase of Dentsu virtual identities. Now back to our final pillar. When we say balancing strengths, we mean really focusing on human talents that we see, we interact with, and work hand in hand with. And that in that we are all different and we have our own unique talents to bring to the table. Whether human or virtual, it is really imperative to balance your team strengths and mitigate any weaknesses. I will also want to say that it is equally important to spend time and identify the junior team members within your team, really to speak to them about their aspiration and really help them grow with their strengths and also identifying their weaknesses. It is therefore, really, really important to also focus on senior leads as well. Of course, you can't just focus on your junior team members, but you also got to make sure that every single level of talents sitting in your team have been fully attended to, basically, right? So no matter how senior or how knowledgeable that they are, right? After all, they are what really makes your team really invincible. And I cannot stress the importance and why it is prudent to talk about the aspiration no matter the level, and that each team members can get to in their career trajectory. And now we are on the last slide of my presentation. And on this slide, I would want to end my presentation to just really share the importance of having a well-balanced team within your team setup, and how we get there. And this is to clearly assign responsibilities and roles to ensure that your team members are well-balanced, in terms of strengths and other weaknesses that can then be mitigated against, right? With that, this now concludes my presentation and on championing sustainable team management, the Dentsu Creative way.
Wow.
Thank you so much for your
Kevin,
time. Over to you, Amanda.
Kevin, thank you very, 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 very much. When I met you, I was immediately inspired by your personality, your story, your focus on people and sustainable talent management. I was also inspired by the time boxing concept. I put it into place a little bit, but it really works. It really does work. And I have, and the audience has, so many questions about time boxing. Yes, about tools, about how you deal with getting the most out of your team, etc., etc. But unfortunately, we have literally run out of time.
That's me.
It was fascinating. Thank you so much. What I think we're going to do is hopefully we can give you the opportunity to answer these questions and provide your answers afterwards. But I really want to thank you. Thank you for being part of today. It was wonderful to hear your presentation, hear you speak.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Thank you. Now, to the audience, to round off the day, we're going to join Benoit, who is the Design Program Manager at Meta, who shares his views on implementing process through a story of collaboration and compromise. So I'll see you on the next track.